village to another episode of Jedi Learning with Baba Ken 2. And today we're here to discuss the top 5 African asthma treatments. Now this is an extremely important topic because number one, it affects African Americans at a much higher rate than it does the rest of the population. The death rate is higher from asthma than any of the other demographics. The severity of asthma is higher than any other rate of demographics. And the amount of medicine or drugs used is higher than any other rate of demographics. And a lot of this drug use has been related to deaths in the African American community, namely by the drug albuterol. Anybody who has any experience with asthma or a child with asthma, grandparent, uncle, auntie, knows that albuterol is a staple drug used to treat shortness of breath, coughing, and wheezing caused by inflammation in the lungs and mucus that rushes to the lungs during an asthma attack. But for whatever reason, this drug has a much higher rate of death in the African community than any other demographic or community. So we decided to take a look at that and say, you know what, there are alternative medicines, and not even alternative, but original medicines that we can find and use to treat these conditions that are much safer and much more indigenous to your DNA and genes than any of these false drugs that we have to use. So, without any further ado, let's get into the first one. The first one is Rubus Tea, also known as the red bush tea. Now, the Rubus Tea is the most popular probably on this list because people can find it at most of their local tea leaf providers, such as Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf or any of the other popular, like I said, tea leaf providers. The rubus or red bush plant is from South Africa, used by the Khoisan people. So these are the short-statured people that have been there for years and years, using these ancient medicines to cure the shortness of breath. So rubus has been known as a bronchodilator, which means it opens up the lungs, allowing oxygen to fill the lungs and be pumped throughout the heart and throughout the rest of the body. This helps ease coughing and tightness of the chest related to asthma. So number one, the red bush tea or the Rubus tea out of South Africa. Number two, now this is an African American treatment, and this has been used since Africans were brought over into the United States of America in order to treat asthma. Now this treatment was brought from the ancient times, but it also was very important when we came here because of the distrust of the doctors at that time. No experiments wanted to be happening. Nobody wanted to get cut on or be used for any other type of foul poisons that were possible at that time. Very highly likely. So what did people do? They used psychology. They used hekau, or magic, or words of power. And this is the ritual. It's called the stick cut technique. And what you would do is you would get a stick, you would measure the person, whoever it was that was suffering from asthmatic-like symptoms. You would measure them. And as a result of that measurement, you would either cut the stick off there or leave a mark right where that person's height ended. And you would let that person know, as soon as you outgrow this stick or as soon as you outgrow this mark, you will outgrow your asthma. And wouldn't you know, it worked and was much more successful than the asthma treatments at that time, especially for the native population. And this is the trick there. Asthma is a psychosomatic disorder, which means you can make it better or worse by how you think about it. Psycho meaning the mind, and somatic meaning the body, which means the mind can affect the body, also showing you how powerful, once again, your mind is. So if people actually outgrew it and they believed and they understood that this was actually going to happen, it happened. So number two on the list, the stick cut technique, ancient African American hoodoo that has been used for at least the last 300 to 400 years. Number three on the list, and this comes out of Nigeria, and it is called the violet tree. The violet tree also produces bronchodilation, and it opens up the lungs and the airways. So once again, oxygen can be pumped throughout the blood, the body, and the brain. Also good for heart and a ton of other ailments. But the violet tree, very important in West African treatment of asthma and shortness of breath. It soothes the throat, it decreases coughing, It decreases irritation in the lungs, it decreases inflammation in the lungs, and it decreases mucus in the lungs. So anti-inflammatory, antitoxin, it does all of those things, and has all of those properties. So look to the violet tree to provide you with the nourishment that you need if you are suffering from asthma-like symptoms. The roots are the most important part. So boiling those and using those in such things as a vaporizer or as an inhalant are very, very key. And this brings us to number 4 on the list. And we go all the way back to ancient Kemet. And this is one of the oldest treatments for asthma on the planet, as the book that it came from is one of the oldest medical books on the planet. And that document, or that book, now called the Ebers Papyrus, was found in Waset, Kemet. Where else would it be found? But this document contains 700 treatments for various ailments, a number of them being for asthma. And this is actually the precursor to your modern day inhaler, and we call it aromatherapy. The actual treatment calls for a person to get 7 stones, possibly even bricks. Heat those stones or bricks up and place 3 substances on those stones or brick: belladonna, bitumen, and henbane. As a result of you putting all those on the brick, heating it up, and inhaling the fumes, it will once again release the lungs from constriction, allow oxygen to flow freely through the nostrils and throughout the body, throughout the heart, and throughout the rest of the body, including the brain, providing you with the feeling of euphoria as you activate that vagus nerve, which also activates serotonin, dopamine, and the other uppers that are produced by your body. And lastly, we want to talk about hydrotherapy. And this is another African American treatment for asthma, coming from one of the ancestors now, Dr. Layla Africa. And he determined that a combination for the hydro bath, or the hydrotherapy, was to heat the bath up and then place in it 3 substances, or at least 2: chamomile, eucalyptus, and wormwood. By taking a bath in that and inhaling and also letting those substances seep through your skin, it provided you with the ease that you needed to breathe, to ease your cough, and to ease any tightness of the chest or the throat area that was caused by an allergic asthma attack. So once again, the ancestor Dr. Layla Africa provided us with that particular treatment, and you can go get his book if you want to look at more details on how to treat asthma. So there you go. The top 5 African asthma treatments, which do not call for any synthetic drugs and have been used for thousands and thousands of years to treat the condition that Black people suffer by the name of asthma. Once again, Africa is suffered by Black people at a much, much higher rate than most other people in the United States. And because of that, they are prescribed drugs that actually end up harming them. These are 5 substances and 5 rituals and treatments that you can actually use to help your asthmatic conditions, as they are conditions that I also use to help my asthma conditions. Once again, this is Barbican 2 with another episode of Jedi Learning, and we hope that you have found this information very, very interesting and useful. And if you have done so, make sure you subscribe, because we will always continue to drop information like this on this channel. Not only that, if you like the information, share it with somebody who you think can use it, especially those who suffer from asthma. And lastly, go ahead and hit the like button, okay? So, we hope to see you soon. This has been Jedi Learning, where anyone can learn to learn, and we resurrect communities through superior education. Peace.